Procrastination is not a time management problem. It never was. In every planner, every productivity app, every just break it into smaller steps advice you've ever gotten, it was all aimed at the wrong target. Because the thing that's actually keeping you stuck, it has nothing to do with how you organize your schedule. You know exactly how this goes. You sit down to start something. Could be a report, a business idea you've been sitting on, a difficult email you need to send. You know it matters. You know the deadline is real. And somehow, you end up reorganizing your desk, or opening YouTube, or making your third cup of coffee while telling yourself you'll start in 10 minutes. The strange part? You're completely aware of what you're doing. You know in real time that you are procrastinating. And knowing that doesn't stop you. If anything, the awareness just adds a layer of guilt on top of everything else. Then the deadline gets close enough that panic takes over. You do the thing in a fraction of the time you had. It comes out okay, maybe even good, and you tell yourself, never again. Next time, I'll start early. Next time comes, same thing happens. This isn't a story about a few people with bad habits. This is something almost every person on the planet experiences repeatedly across their entire life, which raises an obvious question. If we all know procrastination hurts us, why does it keep winning? The answer most people land on is some version of the same story. I'm lazy, or I just don't have enough discipline. Maybe if I actually cared about this, I'd just do it. The fact that I'm not doing it means I don't care enough. And the self-help version of that is you need better time management. Make a schedule, set a timer, break it into smaller tasks. These explanations feel right because they're morally satisfying. They locate the problem inside your character and offer a simple fix. Be less lazy, want it more, manage your time better. But here's what's strange. People who procrastinate the most are often the ones who care the most about what they're putting off. Students who procrastinate hardest are often the ones the assignment means the most to. The person who can't start their business idea usually wants it more than almost anything else. So if caring more was the solution, they'd already have solved it. But is any of that actually true? Here's what the research actually shows. Procrastination is not a time management failure. It's an emotion regulation failure. Those are completely different problems with completely different solutions. The sequence works like this. You look at a task, let's say writing a difficult email to your boss. The moment you look at it, your brain doesn't just register tasks to complete. It registers a feeling. Maybe it's anxiety about how they'll respond. Maybe it's a vague sense that you might do it wrong. Maybe it's just a low-level dread of something uncomfortable. Whatever the specific emotion, your brain immediately wants relief from it. And here's the thing, avoidance works. The second you close that email draft and open something else, the discomfort drops. You feel better, immediately. That relief is real, and your brain learns from it. It learns that avoiding the task produces comfort. So the next time you look at the task, the pull toward avoidance is even stronger. There's a second mechanism running underneath this. Behavioral economists call it temporal discounting, the fact that humans naturally weight present costs higher than future costs. The discomfort of starting the task is happening right now. The consequences of not doing it are happening later. So your brain, doing its basic math, keeps choosing now over later, every time. These two forces, emotional avoidance and temporal discounting, don't just coexist, they amplify each other. Together, they create something that feels completely irrational from the outside, but is, from your brain's perspective, completely logical. Delay, feel better now, deal with the consequences later. That's the root principle. Procrastination is your brain choosing immediate emotional comfort over long-term goal pursuit. It is at its core a mood management strategy, not a character flaw, not laziness, mood management. This mechanism doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from how the brain is built. The part of your brain that handles long-term planning and rational goal pursuit, the prefrontal cortex, is slow, energy expensive, and relatively new in evolutionary terms. The part that handles emotion and immediate threat response, the limbic system, particularly the amygdala, is fast, automatic, and ancient. When you sit down to do something that triggers anxiety or self-doubt, the amygdala fires first. It registers a threat. The prefrontal cortex tries to say, this isn't a real threat, it's just an email. but it's working uphill against a faster, older system. In chronic procrastinators, brain imaging studies have found the amygdala fires more strongly in response to aversive tasks. The emotional response is louder, which means the pull toward avoidance is stronger. Some researchers also suggest that for people with ADHD or similar executive function differences, there's an additional layer: deficient dopamine regulation that makes it even harder to initiate tasks that don't produce immediate reward. This is a meaningfully different mechanism from emotional avoidance, and it's worth noting because conflating the two leads to completely wrong interventions. But for most people, most of the time, the driver is emotional. The task makes you feel something uncomfortable. The brain wants that feeling to stop. Avoidance stops it. Repeat. Here's what goes wrong when people misread the mechanism. If you believe procrastination is a time management problem, you buy a planner. You set reminders. You try to schedule the task at a better time of day, and none of it works because the problem was never the schedule. The task is still emotionally aversive at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday with a timer running as it was at 10 p.m. when you were scrolling. The feeling is still there. The avoidance still wins. The second consequence is more insidious. When people believe procrastination is laziness or a character flaw, the natural response is shame. And shame, this is the cruel part, makes procrastination worse. Shame itself is an aversive emotional state. It makes looking at the task feel even more threatening. The more you beat yourself up for not starting, the harder it becomes to start. The self-criticism that's supposed to motivate you actually deepens the avoidance loop. Most people's response to procrastination creates more procrastination. That's not a small problem. Consider a student working on their thesis, the most important piece of academic work of their life. Objectively, this is what they've been working toward for years. They care about it enormously, and they cannot start it. They clean their apartment. They reread papers they've already read. They plan elaborate outlines they never execute. From the outside, it looks like laziness. From the inside, every time they sit down to write, they feel inadequate. They're afraid the output won't be good enough. That fear is unbearable, and the laptop stays closed. Their procrastination is proportional not to how little they care, but to how much. The second example is simpler and almost universal. Someone has a medical appointment they've been putting off, maybe a checkup they know they should have. Scheduling it would take 4 minutes. They don't schedule it for months. It's not that they don't value their health, it's that opening that scheduling page brings with it a low-level dread. What if something's wrong? Avoidance keeps that dread at bay. 4 minutes of discomfort, indefinitely delayed. In both cases, not laziness, not time management, emotional avoidance running exactly as designed. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop diagnosing yourself as lazy. That diagnosis is both wrong and counterproductive. It adds shame to the avoidance loop and makes it harder to start. The reframe is, I'm not avoiding the task, I'm avoiding a feeling the task produces. That's a different problem, and it has different solutions. Second, when you sit down to work and feel resistance, name the emotion before you reach for your phone. I feel anxious about how this will turn out. I feel overwhelmed because I don't know where to start. You're not diagnosing weakness, you're interrupting the automatic avoidance response by naming what's actually happening. Third, lower the emotional entry cost of starting. Not by lowering your standards, by removing ambiguity. The most procrastinated tasks are almost always the most ambiguous ones. Define exactly what the first 5 minutes of work looks like before you sit down to do it. Not work on the report. Open the document, write one sentence on top that is wrong, and fix it. The brain avoids the unknown. Make the start known. Fourth, use self-compassion, not self-criticism, as your correction mechanism. Research on emotion regulation consistently shows that people who respond to their own procrastination with self-compassion, acknowledging they fell short without catastrophizing it, recover faster and procrastinate less over time than people who use shame as a motivator. This is counterintuitive, but the evidence is clear on it. You were never fighting laziness. You were always fighting fear. And now you know where the real battle is.